right, 21 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. What year is it? It's 2019, right? Right?
Yes.
So what are we counting from? We're counting from Jesus. I'm never really sure if it's the day he was born or what is it from, but it's from Jesus, right?
Yes.
So the very year is somehow influenced by a religious event, right? An event in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many days in the week? 7?
Yes.
Isn't that established in the Bible somewhere? Right? Because, I mean, it could have been any number. I mean, who decided this was going to be 7 days? We'll do it all over again, right?
Exactly.
I'm just glad it wasn't more than that.
Yeah.
I'm enough with 5 and then 2, 5 and then 2, that whole routine.
We're 6 and 1.
Chuck Stetson is on the phone. He's got a book that goes from Genesis to Revelation. Sounds like I'm talking about the Bible, right? No, this is a companion to the Bible. It's called The Bible and Its Influence. It is a student textbook, and Chuck Stetson is the CEO of Essentials in Education, and he wrote this book, and I found it on Amazon. And I don't know if there's a website. There must be. I'm sure there's a website for everything, right? Chuck Stetson, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Larry and Robin, for having me.
Where are you calling from?
I'm in New York, and this is where we started out, and we have been working on this. It really goes back to 1998 when we called up the First Amendment Center, and they had done in 1994 Religion and Public Schools, the First Amendment Guide, and we said, well, what about the Bible? And the guy was in my office within 2 weeks, and 11 months later we had the Bible and Public Schools, the First Amendment Guide, which was endorsed by the National School Boards Association, American Federation of Teachers, National Education Association, Christian groups, Jewish groups, and the secular people for the American way. How about that?
Oh my God! So when somebody says it's BCE, not BC, I always say, so that means before the Common Era. Well, why don't you just say before Christ? Because that's what we're counting from anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is that we wanted to build some consensus because, particularly with schools, you can get, if you get into fights, then the school boards throw up their hands and say, we don't want to get involved. So what we did is we didn't go there. We basically left, we had some dates in there, but we really focused on people need to know the narrative. Why do they need to know the narrative? Because you can't really understand the English language, English literature, history, art, music, or culture without it. And we did a study of high school English teachers, and nationally, and 98% said that kids are disadvantaged in reading English literature if they don't know the Bible. And it's true. And by the way, the Quran doesn't come up because, for example, Shakespeare had over 1,200 references to the Bible in his 36 plays. He had no references to the Quran. So if you don't know the Bible, you don't know Shakespeare.
Well, okay, and I can think of a couple of examples. I'm sure you have a gazillion of them, but the one I would point to is the prodigal son. Look, I'm the prodigal son. Well, how many people know where that expression comes from, right?
Right, and in fact, on the advanced placement, English composition and literature, they have allusions, and 2/3 of the allusions are biblical allusions. So if you want to get a 5, which is a top score in advanced placement, you better know some of the Bible stuff, or you're going to have trouble getting there.
Yeah, and Good Samaritan comes to mind also. So tell me some of the other cultural things that can be traced back to the Bible.
Well, actually, it's very interesting. We don't cover it in our book, but the word compassion did not enter the Greek language until the 1st century A.D. Why didn't it enter until that time? Because the Greeks did not have compassion. They avoid suffering at all costs, and they held it in. And then this guy comes along and starts talking about compassion. It becomes a new word in the Greek.
Really?
And it shows up 12 times in the New Testament, and you've just mentioned 2 of them, the prodigal son and the Good Samaritan. So if you go to, for example, the Good Samaritan, who are the priests and the Levite that walk on by? They're good Greeks in a Hellenized world, because of course you walked on by. What Jesus did there is he turned the world upside down. He said, no, you don't walk on by. You don't hold it all in. You do the opposite. You care for people. And in this case, the person caring for it was the hated enemy, the Samaritan. And so this had to blow everyone's mind at the time. And, so it's kind of fun. I can talk to millennials and say, are you interested in compassion? And they can say yes, and I can say, how biblical of you. And then we can start a conversation.
Well, you know what drives me nuts? When somebody says they don't believe in Jesus, let's say, I will say, well, exactly what part of what he said do you not believe? Do you not agree with? And they don't even know. They don't even know what they don't even believe in. It just drives me nuts because they will quote John Lennon. They will quote, U2, whatever. But Jesus had some important things to say that we actually use on a regular basis, right?
Well, I think let me frame it this way: the whole aspect of freedom shows up nowhere else. It does not show up in Confucius. It does not show up in Buddha. It does not show up in the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu text. It does not show up in the Quran. It doesn't even show up in ancient Greece. It only shows up in the Bible. And in fact, when in 1776, July 4th, 5 people were appointed by the then Continental Congress, including Benjamin Franklin. Oh, that's right. He was a deist. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and 2 others. And what they came up with for a proposed seal for the United States. Now, it didn't get passed, but it was a sign of the times. It was an image of Moses with his arms outstretched, overlooking the Red Sea with Pharaoh and his chariots going down. And the motto was, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. And the first time that we know of self-governance in the world is right in the Exodus time frame. And by the way, the default for virtually every country in the world, every group, is slavery. And what freedom is the exception. There are only 39% of the 190 countries in the world that are free. And by the way, the U.S. has been on the decline for the last 7 years in freedom.
And what's really nice about this is that this is being taught in the schools as an elective. So nothing is mandated, and the people in the school systems can see which classes are being requested by students and which are not.
Right. And that we've been doing this for 14 years without a problem. We're in 650 high schools in 45 states. But we recently came out with, we pulled out wisdom literature from the Bible, that's Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and Book of Job. We believe that's been taught for 3,000 years because it teaches character, among other things. And it's been taught for 3,000 years because of that. And it teaches good character. And we believe that because it hasn't been taught for the last 50 years, it really needs to be taught in every single world literature course because it's world literature. And we cannot go about it. And we did it. We released a study. It was a study of meta-study of 40 different studies that show when you teach the following values that are all biblical. When you teach love, when you teach integrity, when you teach compassion and self-discipline, guess what? Kids get better grades. Oh, who wants to vote against that?
No, I know. But and anything you say that you can trace to the Bible, if you credit the Bible or a biblical personality, you're often put down as bringing religion into a conversation. But meanwhile, you can say something similar that a pop culture person said, and maybe that pop culture person got it from the Bible. Who knows? But they'll quote, you know what I mean? And then that's accepted and that's embraced. It just drives me nuts. By the way, when you were mentioning about compassion, is forgiveness also one of those things that doesn't show up until the Bible?
That's correct. And it's very interesting. One of the Archbishop Tutu, who received the Nobel Prize, said that unless they had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where you had to admit what you did, you could not receive amnesty. So you had to admit it and ask for forgiveness. And he said that is why, and I think it's the only time in history where you had in South Africa the oppressed took over from the oppressors, and there was not a lot of bloodshed. In fact, there wasn't any bloodshed, really. Wow. the only time in history that I know that's happened, because there was forgiveness, because people had to admit what they did and said, I was wrong in doing it.
I found the book on Amazon, The Bible and Its Influence, student text. Let's say I found second edition. I don't know. So what would we're the second edition, and the thing that's interesting is that we've got now countries like Australia and the Philippines. I just did teacher training in the Philippines. They're so excited by all of this. They've been waiting for this. No one else is going out and doing this publishing. This is ridiculous. We need to teach kids what they need to know in school. This is what they need to know. We have university professors that we surveyed. 100% of the 39 professors from Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, very secular places. They're all English professors, but they agreed an educated person, regardless of their faith, knows the Bible, and they gave us 72 books that they teach in freshman English class, which require a knowledge of the Bible. So if you don't want to know the Bible or study the Bible, and kids, we've documented they don't know the Bible. We did a Gallup study on that. They barely know who Adam and Eve is, but they don't really know Sermon on the Mount or anything like that. If you don't know the Bible, you're going to miss a third of what's going on in any of this English literature. Yeah, I agree. I love this, Chuck. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. In addition to Amazon, what's a good website?
Well, we have a kind of campaign on this. So teachthebibleinsschools.org has all of the basic information. And we would just ask your listeners to go to the schools, ask the teachers of your children or your grandchildren, are they teaching the Bible academically? And if not, why not? Because this is something that everyone should be doing.
It's a hard sell, but I agree with you. Chuck,
look, 80% of Americans want to see it happen. So it's not that hard to sell.
Okay.
And we follow the Bible and public schools, the First Amendment guides. The kids are safe. We're not teaching religion. We're teaching what's in the Bible and how it's influenced the world.
Thank you.
That's legitimate.
Chuck, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for taking time to tell us about this. And for everybody else, go to Amazon and go to the website. Repeat the website again, Chuck.
www.teachthebibleinsschools.org.
Okay, very good. All right, we'll take a little break. Be right back.
You know what all the smart garden shoppers are doing this time of the year? Well, first they check the BobWinesCameliaGardens.net, or they go to the newspaper ad. And then they pick out this week's super special deals. Prices that are truly too good to miss. Examples: Super Buy on night-sized geraniums, just $1.99. A buy one, get one free. Yes, it's a BOGO.